With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Our top stories.
Brantley pleased with the shared benefits of the Lamont mission. Over 300 in Nevis received health care.
St. Kitts and Nevis congratulates newly elected Assistant Secretary General of the Organization of American States.
NEMA encourages residents to prioritize disaster preparedness.
Water service interruptions highlight ongoing water challenges amid government interventions. Opposition leader in Guyana calls for Assistant Police Commissioner to face charges. Caribbean leaders meet with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Internationally, Pakistan vows to respond to India missile strikes. Now, the details.
Over 2 weeks, the Lesser Antilles Medical Assistant Team Lamont and medical teams in St. Kitts and Nevis worked hard to provide primary and critical care to residents and also facilitated knowledge exchanges. The medical mission consisted of a multidisciplinary team of medical professionals from the United States and Taiwan between March 24 and April 4, 2025. The team included a neonatologist, diabetic educator, family physician, dentist, maxillofacial surgeon, ER physicians and nurses, intensive care unit ICU nurse, nurse anesthetist, operating room technician, medical technologist, audiologist, and radiographer. In Nevis, medical services were provided by 13 personnel from the United States Air Force and 6 personnel from the Taipei Veteran Hospital, Taiwan, to more than 300 patients across all age groups, including residents of the island's nursing homes. At the Accident and Emergency Department, consultations were provided to 27 patients. At the Brownhill Health Center, audiology screenings were conducted on 196 patients, ranging from 1 month old to 98 years, and 39 individuals received hearing aids. Additionally, 101 dental examinations were conducted, including 42 fillings, 21 extractions, and 57 cleanings. The Premier of Nevis, Mark Brantley, expressed gratitude to Lamont and the Taiwanese team for providing critical specialized care to residents for yet another time. He also welcomed the donations and the knowledge sharing, which are critical investments in saving lives and enhancing the nation's healthcare system.
Beyond the direct medical care provided, the mission yielded numerous benefits for local health facilities. These included invaluable knowledge exchange between international and local healthcare professionals, as well as the donation of essential medical supplies from both the United States and Taiwan teams. This marks, ladies and gentlemen, the second time that the Lamont mission has been hosted in the Federation, and the Ministry of Health is deeply appreciative of the continued partnership. We look forward to strengthening this collaboration in the years ahead to further enhance healthcare delivery on the island of Nevis.
Meanwhile, communication from the federal arm of the government informed that more than 2,130 patients received treatment and 135 surgeries were performed. The mission also provided technical support by repairing 21 critical pieces of medical equipment, thus removing strain from the public's purse. Members of the military are expected to be ready at a moment's notice for deployment anywhere in the world and to provide critical support in times of disaster or conflict. The Lamont mission, organized by the U.S. Air Force Southern Command, tests the airmen and soldiers' ability to effectively plan, activate, organize, and execute their mission through real-world experiences in cross-functional healthcare domains.
Her Excellency Jacinth Henry Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis Ambassador to the United States and Permanent Representative to the Organization of American States, OAS, on behalf of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, extended warm congratulations to Ambassador Laura Gill of Colombia on her historic election as the Assistant Secretary General of the OAS.
The government of St. Kitts and Nevis conveys warmest congratulations to the newly elected Assistant Secretary General of the OAS, Her Excellency Ambassador Laura Gill of Colombia. This election is nothing short of historic, marking since the organization's founding the elevation of a woman to this esteemed post.
The ambassador highlighted the significance of this milestone for the hemisphere's premier political organization. She described it as
a powerful emblem of progress and a compelling affirmation that the hemisphere's premier political organization has demonstrably embraced inclusive, transformative leadership, sending a resounding message of validation to girl women across the Americas, that the OAS is a place where merit is recognized, barriers are broken, and all voices have a place at the table.
Ambassador Henry Martin also took the opportunity to commend the other candidates in the election process.
St. Kitts and Nevis is also expressing its sincere commendation to Ambassador Ana Maria Sanchez of Peru and to Ambassador Claudia Escobar of Guatemala. Excelencies, sus candidaturas.
Excellencies, your candidacies, each marked by impressive experience, unwavering professionalism, and a vision, significantly enriched this process. My delegation salutes your historic participation in this process.
She emphasized the historic nature of the election, remarking on the exceptional caliber of leadership on display.
The fact that the organization has managed to bring 3 women together, powerful women who are all certainly capable of competing for such leadership, is proof of the depth of the talent and the growing transformation in our collective political landscape. Your historic candidacies will forever mark a fundamental element in historic voting held today.
Looking ahead, Ambassador Henry Martin underlined the promising partnership between the newly elected Assistant Secretary General and the Secretary General-elect Albert Ramdin, expressing confidence in their ability to revitalize the OAS.
Is particularly encouraged by the promise of strong visionary partnership between the Assistant Secretary General-elect and the Secretary General-elect, His Excellency Albert Ramdin. We are confident that together they will usher in a new era of strategic propulsion for the OAS, one that will restore and elevate its rightful place as a hemispheric and global leader in advancing the core pillars of the organization: democracy, human rights, security, and development.
Her Excellency Henry Martin affirmed the importance of this leadership for the future of the hemisphere.
This joint leadership, rooted in experience, inclusivity, and clarity of purpose, represents a pivotal opportunity to re-energize the OAS, enhance its relevance, and ensure that its work speaks directly to the needs, hopes, and aspirations of the people of the Americas. We look forward to seeing a revitalized institution that acts decisively to defend democratic values, address insecurity, respond to development challenges, and uphold the human rights of all.
In closing, Ambassador Henry Martin pledged St. Kitts and Nevis' full support for the incoming leadership and honored the outgoing Assistant Secretary General.
St. Kitts and Nevis stands ready to support and collaborate with the Secretary General-elect and the Assistant Secretary General-elect as they begin this important journey. We believe that with unity of purpose, conviction of mission, and strength of leadership, the OAS will rise to meet the moment and help shape a more just, inclusive, and peaceful hemisphere. My delegation seizes this opportunity to express its sincere appreciation and congratulations to Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendez as he demits office. ASG, your unwavering commitment, permanent availability, and warm and affable disposition in addressing matters brought to your attention have greatly benefited the inter-American system and the peoples of the Americas. We wish you continued success in all of your tomorrows. Secretaria General Adjunta
ASG-elect, Ambassador Laura Hill, may you find inspiration in this historic mandate, and that your mandate be marked by great achievements, strengthened alliances, and long-lasting progress for all throughout the Americas.
Her Excellency Jacinth Henry Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis Ambassador to the United States and Permanent Representative to the Organization of American States, OAS.
As part of its commitment to enhancing communication and public safety, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, reminded the public of St. Kitts and Nevis of their domestic responsibilities ahead of the start of the transatlantic hurricane season. In a notice to WINN FM, NEMA encourages families to gather emergency supplies and create emergency plans. According to NEMA, an emergency supplies kit is essential for short-term survival and provides vital items for the family. Individuals and families are encouraged to invest in a sleeping bag, non-electric can opener, hand sanitizer, first aid kits, hygienic items, face masks, water, enough to last for 3 days for each family member, blankets, non-perishable foods, enough to supply the family for 3 days, battery-powered radio, portable cell phone charger, extra clothing, medication, at least a week's supply of all prescription medication properly stored in a waterproof container, special food for babies or persons with dietary needs, cleaning supplies, flashlight and extra batteries, cash, and important documents such as passports, medical records, vaccination cards, insurance policies, etc. NEMA advised that a family emergency plan is crucial. Family or household members are encouraged to discuss how to prepare and respond to disasters, identify responsibilities for each person within the household, discuss how to work together as a team, and practice as many elements of the plan as possible.
The St. Kitts Water Services Department, WSD, recently issued notices regarding water service interruptions that affected several areas across the island on May 6, 2025. According to the department, the disruptions were maintenance responses to recent weather conditions and infrastructure repairs aimed at safeguarding water supply reliability to residents. Following heavy rainfall on May 6, the Water Services Department suspended water services from Limekeel to Nigini to prevent silting in the Wingfield distribution line. The intense rain created unfavorable conditions that risk sediment accumulation in this vital pipeline, which could severely affect water quality and flow. Preventative interruption is necessary to protect long-term water infrastructure integrity and maintain the quality of potable water delivered to customers. Reduced water pressure in Connery was also caused by low levels in the local storage tank, which caused the department to redirect the water supply to Moore Peak. Service was expected to return to normal service levels on May 6th. The department highlights that fluctuating water pressure is symptomatic of the broader water scarcity challenge currently faced by St. Kitts and Nevis. These challenges are driven by declining rainfall and increased demand for limited resources. Simultaneously, additional maintenance operations began on May 6, 2025, as teams from the department conducted essential repairs in Crab Hill Sandy Point, Holland Gut, Shadwell, and near the Frigate Bay Police Station. Similarly, connections at Stapleton Road were relocated and plugged. Service restoration was expected by May 7th. Addressing the broader water challenges in St. Kitts and Nevis, these short-term interruptions occur within the context of ongoing water supply challenges confronting St. Kitts and Nevis. The Twin Island Federation is grappling with water scarcity intensified by a marked decline in annual rainfall. This is heightened by climate change impacts that have reduced aquifer recharge and increased competition for water among the agriculture, housing, and tourism sectors. Approximately 80% of St. Kitts residents suffer frequent water outages as the demand for potable water exceeds the available supply by up to 1.4 million gallons a day. In response, the Water Services Department has embarked on several strategic interventions to bolster water resilience. Notably, construction commenced in mid-2024 on a seawater reverse osmosis desalination plant in the CA Paul Southwell Industrial Site in Bastyr, with an anticipated daily production capacity of 2 million gallons. This EC $50 million investment underscores the commitment to secure a stable, climate-resilient water supply and aims to restore the population's uninterrupted 24-hour potable water service. The Honorable Connors Maynard, Minister with responsibility for water, recently spoke of all the investments being made to address the Federation's water scarcity issues.
By August of this year, it is anticipated, if all construction goes well, that we would have increased our national water production capacity by a record 3 million gallons of water per day. St. Kitts presently only produces 5.5. So this is over 50% increase in our water capacity. Safeguarding our future and meeting the demands of our growing population. This includes, of course, the new water well in Keyon, where we cannot even run the pump all day because we don't have enough storage to store it in. Could you imagine that now? We have excess water in the Keyon area. Desalinated water from Royal Utilities that has fed Frigate Bay and Southeast Peninsula to take an ease off of the Bastia Valley Aquifer, although that in itself is still not enough. But we get hundreds of thousands, or have gotten hundreds of thousands of gallons from there. A desalination plant that was funded by the UAE, which the original project started in the former Labour administration. And I came back 7.5 years for it not to be completed. And in fact, I remember that we were on the verge of it being pulled because of the lack of response from the former administration. We had to convene and insist that we still want it to happen, and we pushed for it, and construction and the finalization happened under this administration. And most significantly, soon to be completed, the first ever 2 million gallon a day desal plant that we have done from scratch, from concept to design to procurement to development to building. 2 million gallon a day desal plant at the Paul Southwell industrial site. Still to come, which we are about to undertake, the final survey from Sandy Point heading westward and north around the country to Lodge, where we will identify an anticipated 10 additional wells if the surveys prove that to be the case. The drillers have already been lined up and already procured to drill in that section of the country.
In addition, a solar-powered desalination facility at Canada Estate is nearing completion. It is designed to produce roughly 76,000 gallons daily, complementing efforts to diversify water sources and reduce pressure on dwindling groundwater supplies. Minister Maynard acknowledged the people's frustrations concerning water interruptions.
Unfortunately, we can't turn on the switch overnight, and I want to acknowledge the frustrations of many who still have to bear the rationing of water. That is because, as you know, you cannot build a home or a house or anything overnight. But we have laid the foundation, and you can go and visit yourself to see the progress that has been made. At the Paul Southwell industrial site, for instance, to see what would be the largest water facility in this country. We are doing the work. And by God's grace, in a few months, you will all feel the results.
The government is also pursuing new well drilling, system expansions, and the application of modern technologies to optimize water use efficiently. In regional news, opposition leader in Guyana calls for Assistant Police Commissioner to face charges. News source Guyana reports.
Tonight, opposition leader Aubrey Norton is calling for Assistant Commissioner of Police Khalid Mandal to face charges for creating public mischief and attempting to pervert the course of justice. The Assistant Commissioner was the officer in charge of Region 3 when 11-year-old Adriana Young was found dead in the pool of the Doubleday Hotel. That hotel was subsequently gutted by fire. The family of the young girl had stated that it was Mr. Mandal who told them that he has a video recording of Adriana leaving the hotel in a vehicle. The Guyana Police Force also issued a press statement with that same information that turned out to be false. The Assistant Commissioner of Police was transferred from the region and eventually sent on administrative leave over the handling of the initial investigation into the girl's disappearance. Opposition leader Aubrey Norton said the police force must discontinue adopting a political posture and be fair in the execution of its responsibilities in the aftermath of the protest for Adriana Young.
If you're accusing nurse Tiana Lois King of creating public mischief and attempting to pervert and obstruct the course of justice, then the same thing should occur for the Assistant Commissioner. Because the Assistant Commissioner, by providing false information, can be considered one of the sources of the protests that follow at the Doubleday Hotel.
Mr. Norton also said the Guyana Police Force has been naming scores of persons for inciting public unrest, but should look to its own assistant commissioner if it is to be fair.
I hold no brief for Tiana Lois King. But what I do know is that if she is to be charged, then Mandel should be charged because it is the similar act that both of them would have committed. And in the case of Mandel, it was in the public domain long before. So I repeat, the Guyana Police Force must be fair, stop being political, and ensure that the issue wanted bulletin for Khalid Mandel and subsequently charge him for creating public mischief and attempting to pervert and obstruct the course of justice.
And Norton also said while justice is yet to be served, the firing of Mr. Mandel would demonstrate that there is indeed a serious attempt to get to the bottom of the story. 2 junior police officers have since been fired for their handling of the initial investigation. With the hope of pushing better policing, the government of Guyana handed over 5,000 body cams to the Guyana Police Force as part of its efforts to improve transparency and accountability in the force. The high-tech body cams, which are both dust and water resistant and comes with Wi-Fi capabilities, were handed over by President Irfan Ali to the Commissioner of Police Clifton Hicken at State House in the presence of the Home Affairs Minister Robeson Ben and other police and government officials.
So today we'll be handing over 5,000 of these cameras. 5,000 cameras to the Guyana Police Force. So there is absolutely no excuse whatsoever from the Guyana Police Force of our men and women in the field not being equipped with these cameras when conducting their duties and responsibilities.
Noting that the body cams will significantly improve transparency and accountability, President Irfan Ali said the technology will be used to clearly capture the interaction of the police with the public.
We want the Guyana Police Force to be of service. We want the Guyana Police Force to be a service-oriented organization. And part of that is for us to continuously work on improving the service delivery. A big part of improving service delivery is monitoring and evaluation, transparency and accountability, but also at the same time giving our police officers, our men and women in uniform, the tools to make their job easier, the tools that would allow them also to hold people accountable for their action. It is not only the police action, but the citizenry.
Meanwhile, the Home Affairs Minister said undoubtedly the body cams will improve the quality of service provided by the Guyana Police Force and will also help to enhance the public's trust in the force.
We are aware that even where there may be deficiencies and human failings, that the question of technology could add to the certitude of delivering the service that our citizens require and to build trust and confidence in respect of the work that we do in improving the lives and the protection of the citizens of the country.
The Commissioner of Police Clifton Hicken assured both the President and the Minister of Home Affairs that the body cameras will be used for their intended purpose. The government has been using various forms of technology in their efforts to improve policing across the country. Just recently, the government launched an automated ticketing system to enhance road safety. A number of CCTV cameras have also been mounted to monitor key areas, particularly those prone to crime.
Caribbean leaders meet with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Grenada Broadcasting Network has that story.
Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell was among a number of Caribbean leaders meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Tuesday. This meeting gave more heads of government a chance to air their concerns 2 months after Secretary Rubio met with a half-dozen Caribbean leaders in his first official visit to the region. Prime Minister Mitchell, along with the Prime Ministers of 5 Eastern Caribbean nations, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, along with the Bahamas, met with Rubio in Washington, D.C. Discussions included a host of regional concerns on the part of the United States, such as border security and countering illegal immigration. Ahead of the meeting, the Prime Minister said they intended to address some issues which they believe did not get sufficient airing in March when Rubio flew to the region and met with the Prime Ministers of Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago, and the new head of Haiti's Presidential Council. Tuesday's meeting was meant for the countries which weren't part of the discussions, but who, along with Belize and the British Overseas Territory of Montserrat, make up the 15-member regional Caribbean community bloc known as CARICOM. Another matter of concern was the future of the Citizenship by Investment programs, which provides a path to citizenship by moneyed investors and is considered a lifeline to 5 Eastern Caribbean economies. Leaders are concerned that it may be the reason some of their nations have been singled out in discussions by Trump administration officials about travel bans of their nationals. Press Secretary Neela Etienne has confirmed that a press briefing will be held in short order, which will include the outcome of Tuesday's meeting. Reporting for GBN News, Beverly Telesford.
We now bring you these international reports.
Pakistan has accused India of igniting an inferno in the region by killing at least 26 people in a series of missile strikes and gunfire. Several sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir were hit. The National Security Council says India's actions caused grave danger to commercial airlines, endangering thousands of lives, and that Pakistan's armed forces have been authorized to undertake corresponding action. Well, India said it hit 9 sites targeting what it described as terrorist infrastructure. It said no military facilities had been attacked. Also says 10 civilians were killed by Pakistan's shelling on the Indian side of the de facto border in Kashmir, known as the Line of Control. Well, tensions between the nuclear-armed neighbours have escalated since last month's attack in Indian-administered Kashmir, in which 26 civilians were killed. India accuses Pakistan of backing cross-border terrorism, a charge Islamabad strongly denies. While in Muzaffarabad, in the main city in Pakistan-administered Kashmir, troops cordoned off streets around that mosque that Islamabad said was hit by an Indian missile. BBC Urdu's Farhat Javad sent this.
The Bilal Mosque, which was one of the targets of Indian strikes. This whole area has been cordoned off. There is a heavy presence of the troops of Pakistan Army and other security forces here. The building of the mosque has been completely damaged, debris and large fragments of metal rooftops scattered everywhere. Not only the building of this mosque was damaged, but some of the houses which were very close to the mosque, they are also partially damaged. Most of the residents, they had left. Some of them had managed to come back today to assess the damages to their properties and also lock their doors. I have spoken to some of them who say that they were fast asleep when they heard explosions and they saw huge sparks of light when the missiles struck. One of them says that we were sleeping when we heard the first blast. He says that we ran out of our homes with our families and children. The kids were terrified and shocked, and everyone was screaming. He says, another resident I have spoken with, he says that the streets were filled with people fleeing in fear and unsure of what was happening. A sense of fear, uncertainty and trauma is not limited to this part only. But as we walk through the city, we can see that the impact of this attack is on everyday life is quite visible. Streets are quiet, but atmosphere is quite tense and people are trying to make sense of what happened.
Well, India says the missile strikes are in response to a deadly attack on Indian tourists in Pahalgam last month.
The whole country is happy that we took revenge. Our country gave a befitting reply to those who killed innocent people. Our enemy countries should get this message. We have information from every corner, and if we have to take more such action in the future, we will do so with more strength.
Well, our correspondent Samira Hussain is in Delhi. She told us more about the response from the Indian government so far.
Well, we actually heard for the first time from the Indian government and officials from the Indian military. It was the first time that we'd heard anything from them in person after the overnight attacks. And they put up maps and showed details in terms of where they attacked in Pakistan-administered Kashmir and beyond that area. They said that the 9 targets were actually militant training camps. They were operating these training camps and even were housing weapons. And India said that those were their sole targets, that they successfully destroyed those targets, and they specifically picked those areas because there were no civilian, that there wouldn't be any civilian casualties, which India says that there weren't any civilian casualties. Of course, Pakistan denies all of this, denies that there were militants operating in the areas that they targeted. And they have said already that dozens of civilians have been killed in those strikes and even more have been injured. So it's a lot of what you're hearing from Pakistan, from India rather, being countered by Pakistan and vice versa.
The EU intends to propose tariffs on Boeing jets. That's according to Britain's Financial Times on Wednesday. The report said the European Commission plans to include civilian aircraft on a list of roughly $100 billion in annual US imports to be targeted. The measures would need to be approved by a weighted majority of member states. And it would only come into effect if the EU doesn't make sufficient progress in its talks with Washington to reduce US tariffs on European goods, according to the report. Boeing and the European Commission did not immediately respond to Reuters' requests for comment. The EU faces US import tariffs of 25% on its steel, aluminum and cars. It also has to deal with so-called reciprocal tariffs of 10% for almost all other goods, including aircraft. That could rise to 20% after President Donald Trump's 90-day pause expires on July 8th. European carriers have hundreds of jets on order with Boeing, but potential levies could potentially raise prices of those aircraft. Both European and US aerospace companies have called for all tariffs to be lifted.
Will Jerome Powell be allowed to finish out his term? That is one of many questions driving the stock market and economic concerns in the United States. The chairman of the Federal Reserve, which is an independent body, sets interest rates in the U.S., basically the cost of borrowing money. U.S. President Donald Trump appointed him in his first term, but has made clear what he thinks of him now. On social media, calling him a major loser, writing that he is always too late and wrong when it comes to lowering interest rates, and in April, saying his termination cannot come fast enough. Powell has made clear if he's fired, he won't leave, but Trump responded,
"Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But I don't think he's doing the job."
That had a huge impact on the stock market and on U.S. bonds, forcing Trump to change course.
No, I have no intention of firing him.
Trump's comments calmed the markets. The law says the president cannot fire members of the Federal Reserve without cause, such as neglect of duty or malfeasance in office.
The Fed independence is going to be mandatory for our success. So to see the tone shift over the past few weeks has been stomach churning. We're glad to see that now Fed Chair Jerome Powell is not going to be at risk.
Powell has so far resisted the pressure to meet Trump's demands.
Our independence is a matter of law. Congress has, in our statute, we're not removable except for cause. We serve very long terms, seemingly endless terms. So we're protected in the law.
While Trump says Powell is the problem, the Fed now weighing the impact the trade war has had on the economy and what, if anything, they can try to do to stem the immediate damage to worldwide trade. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Washington.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were:
Brantley pleased with the shared benefits of the Lamont mission. Over 300 in Nevis received health care.
St. Kitts and Nevis congratulates newly elected Assistant Secretary General of the Organization of American States.
NEMA encourages residents to prioritize disaster preparedness.
Water service interruptions highlight ongoing water challenges amid government interventions. Opposition leader in Guyana calls for Assistant Police Commissioner to face charges. Caribbean leaders meet with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Internationally, Pakistan vows to respond to India missile strikes.
Thank you for listening.